Man of Interest here, and it's time for This Week in Keyboards, and we have quite a bit of news this week. The sponsor of this episode is Kono.store. Check out the new heavy shell Barracks RGB keyboard that they have available on their shop. This 3.9 pound TKL features a CNC machine aluminum case and a steel plate for that typing stability. The board is $160 and can come with Hako clears, Hako violet, or box white switches in a red or black case color. Check out this keyboard in the description down below. Now let's get to the news because we have a lot to cover this week. So yeah, I don't want to pause too much. But our first topic is commonly used to indicate a pause. The Ellipse is a macro pad by Abstract KB, and it features 3 knobs and 3 switches. This macro pad is currently running as a group buy until the 15th of this month, and the PCB has some nifty features. Powered by GMK, USB Type-C, and RGB underglow. So, what's included in your $50 purchase? Your 3 Bjorn's encoders, an assembled PCB, knobs for the encoders, an acrylic switch plate with a base, and the hardware required to assemble it all. It looks like everything will be shipped out in about 3 to 4 weeks after the group buy concludes on the 15th. So, join in if you're curious about that knob life. I could see some use for this for people who do quite a bit of video or photo editing. I'd consider picking one up if I knew how to program a rotary encoder in GMK. Just as an ellipse can signify a pause, so can a blank. And you might take a quick pause to run through the group buy for GMK Blank Keycaps. This is Scud80's second keycap group buy, but essentially the group buy is for individual blank keycaps from GMK. Each row and color combination will have a 150 unit MOQ, with all of that being the standard GMK colors available. At the base MOQ at 150, you're looking at about $1.26 per 1U keycap or $1.34 for non-1U, with the prices being a bit higher if you're an EU buyer. So if you're looking to buy some blanks for a macro pad or blanks to act as accent keys for a set you're already rocking, this could be a pretty good bet, assuming others also have the same idea as you. I think the most difficult part of this group buy is the individual MOQs per item, but I think some of the more common and popular colors and sizes will do just fine. Our next topic brings us to Kono.store for the GMK Nines keycap set designed by Amir. This set takes advantage of 2 stock GMK colors, U9 and N9, a beige and dark gray respectively. The group buy is running until May 3rd for a $129 base kit, and you know what? I think this one looks pretty decent. While the compatibility is nothing special, it will get the job done at that price. I like this set. I don't know if I'll grab it, I don't know if I want it enough. But you know what the color scheme kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of the Dark Poker 3 keycaps with that beige on black kind of theme. Next up is an interest check for the YKH33, a steampunk style 33% with polycarbonates on it, by the DGX team from Vietnam. Expost diode, aesthetic, RGBs, a rotary encoder, and some sweet polycarbonate. What's not to love except the super small form factor? For those in the community that like to tinker to their heart's content, the YKH33 is another option, which is it's kind of making me wonder. Is it me, or does the sub 60% DIY market seem a bit bloated? There seems to be a lot of sub 60% options that support rotary encoders, soldering your own diodes, and a clean aesthetic. But this board does have some different options. It can be customized as having aluminum, polycarbonate, or brass bottom, and these are nice options to have as opposed to being a sandwich with nothing in the middle or anything else. There also seems to be the YKH30 layout, which has a separate arrow cluster, which honestly looks like the most appealing between the YKH33 and the 30. Despite how small and limited this board is, I'm happy DGX team is willing to give us options for this board. And while I do think the YKH30 looks way nicer than the 33, both of these boards couldn't work for my lifestyle, but I think they will work really well for people who dig small form factor boards and want to do a little bit more than normal. Up next, we have the Karat WKL by Amato. This WKL 60% is a high-profile, top-mounted aluminum case board with a 9-degree typing angle and manufactured by ALF. It's a pretty nice looking board with a brass plate and a clean looking weight, which I enjoy. Amato has asked Alf about the feasibility of a polycarbonate version to leverage the popularity of the current polycarbonate trend, so that might be an option coming soon. According to Alf, the prototype costed somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to $230. The renders look decent. I think a good deal of people will like those side love handles the board has going for it. I think what will really get people on board who might be on the fence will be the colors offered. Since it's Alf, I think it's pretty safe to assume E-White will be an option for an upcharge cost, as well as some of the more standard anodization colors he's offered for other boards that have been manufactured by them. Our next topic slides in with two features we don't see on TKLs too often. The EPTKL by Elliott23 is a TKL that features both a rotary encoder and a slider on the left-hand side of the keyboard. These are two big features that will make this quite the interesting endeavor. While we do have pictures of some sort of this prototype, it's not a functional prototype due to manufacturer error. The PCB will be hot swappable for the switches, so there will be both an ANSI and ISO layout offered for the PCBs. The PCBs will have USB-C ports, which is awesome. The plates themselves will be integrated with the top of the case at 4.5 millimeters thick, and the typing angle will be a chill 7 degrees. The expected price for the aluminum version will be around $360 to $380, and of course, since polycarbonate is one of the top trends right now, there's a possibility for a polycarbonate version as well. I do think this keyboard will do well to join on the current popular trends of having a rotary encoder, and it's a little extra bonus of having that slider there as well. I wish there was a solderable version of the PCB instead of a hot swap, because that means the bottom row is going to be pretty limited, I think. Based on the current pictures, looks like we're going to have a standard bottom row, which is fine. But many like myself would prefer a VINZKL styled bottom row just for that aesthetic. The next TKL to talk about today is the Cleave TKL by VINZKL, described as a very heavy and chunky board. This is a two-part TKL with an aluminum top with an integrated plate, or no, without an integrated plate, sorry, and a brass bottom. This is a pretty early interest check based on the information provided. The case is about 85% done, weight is 90% done, and the weight hasn't been designed yet, but VINZKL has plans on having the plate match the TGR Jane plate. The PCB used will be the wonderfully iconic H87 by Heinebusch, which is a great choice for anyone working on a TKL. For the most part, all we have to judge the board so far are these preliminary renders. I like the overall idea. I would just squeeze those side bezels in a bit personally. The look isn't that bad, and I think a lot of people will like the nice curved front and back of the board. Over at Originative, the Group buy for Sky Modo has began and will be running until the 26th of this month for $150. The set does seem a bit pricier than most GMK sets running these days, but this is pretty in line with Originative's pricing. The set looks pretty decent in terms of the colors. It's like a modern version of Sky Dolch with black modifiers, dark gray alphas with the iconic Sky Dolch cyan to provide contrast across the board. There are also options for Solarize and Y-styled modifiers, which are a bit pricey, but at least it's with the Originative model where there isn't an MOQ for buyers. Originative buys all these sets, they run up to MOQ, and so since they're taking the risk, they price that risk into the costs. Whether you think that's for the better of everyone or kind of an annoyance, it's kind of up to you. But that's the business model that they're running on, and maybe you'll like the sets. Our next topic is a pretty good response to the iconic question you see in many interest checks, which is any ISO avail? Because if you have that question, UPAS has the answer for you with the Isotope-NE. This is a single ISO enter key macro pad. Based on the interest check, UPAS will either go straight to production or cancel. So if these go straight to production, they'll be sold right away in stock. It will have RGB underglow, which you can see through the white palm bottom. The case will be a milled piece of aluminum with an integrated plate and a USB-C port around its back. It's going to be programmable with GMK, of course, and will be offered in black, navy, blue, and rose gold. So, if you're wondering, any ISO avail? You can make it avail if you get the Isotope-NE. So, with the popularity of the 80s and 90s returning to us, it was without a doubt we'd see a comeback of period aesthetics in keyboards. Our next interest check is GMK Analog Dreams by P Wade 3. Heavily inspired by vaporwave imagery, this set features pastel modifiers, legends that pop out, and beige. I like the contrast of this set. For some reason, the only thing that kind of sticks out to me in a bad way is that yellow escape, but otherwise I'm kind of on board with this set. I'm interested to see what the novelties are and how they'll fit with the theme. Will we get a thinking man? Will we get the Windows icon? Will we get the Jazz Cup design onto a keycap? I hope so. Keep an eye on this. It'll be on Novel Keys soon enough. So, in keeping with the theme of culturally inspired keycap sets, we have the Keycap Concept After School 1992 by Ryan Norbauer. Evoking the hot 90s, Ryan has dreamed up of a pretty pastel looking set that very much reminds me of the 90s. 90s Disney, actually. It reminds me of that 1999 show, Xenon Girl from the 21st Century. Why do I still remember what that is? I don't know. That show literally was the last year of the 90s, yet it looks so 90s. Just like After School 1992. The colors Ryan used are based off signature plastic colors, but looking at these colors, there's some worry about legend visibility, since sometimes their legends can be on the thin side, so I'm not sure about the contrast. We'll see. This will be a double shot DSA set, which I think could work thematically with the 90s, because DSA seems pretty 90s to me. Dated and not as good as I remember. But you know what was also really big in the 90s? Sailor Moon. That show revived the Mahou Shoujo genre of anime, also known as the Magical Girl genre. And that takes us to our next interest check by Latika, the DSA Magic Girl sets. I think pastel colors are pretty in now. This basic render we have definitely has some aspects of the genre. There isn't really much to go on at the moment, aside from this kbrenders.com render and an online forum. Initial thoughts are, meh? I need to see better renders and a more fleshed out idea to have a better, fuller view of this, but let's see how it develops. Over on Mashdrop, they're running Tom Berry's GMK Eclipse set. Before shipping and tax, the base set is going to be $120, which is alright. It's alright. I would think if you cut out the number pad, you could get a price maybe a little bit lower than $120, but it is how it is. It does seem like Tom Berry Mashdrop has learned the difficulties of having a million subsets, like with the last run of Carbon, so this set relatively is incredibly simplified. That's going to work to everyone's benefit. I think this set looks pretty good, and if you're looking for a cool blue that didn't have that crazy contrast of GMK Yuri, this is going to be a pretty good set to consider. While the base kit did cut the numpad to still support 60, 65, 75% TKL and HHKB layouts. In addition, there are different smaller accent kits, a number pad kit, spacebar kit, and the 40s kit for that crowd. This set is estimated to ship out in September. So, with all of these TKLs running through this last year, and even that I'm talking about today, you might be looking at all the different cool accessories and keycaps you could get for your TKL. You've probably already got the keycap set you wanted, or maybe it's on order, and maybe you decided, we'll have that. Next step, gotta get an awesome cable to match. Maybe you're on the last piece of the puzzle, and the last piece would be an amazing carrying case. Well, Ryan Norbauer has a possible solution if you're on that problem with his Keybrief TKL. This keyboard to carry brief is made in California and fits most TKLs. I think the main downside is that $200 price tag, which is quite a bit. For an additional $65, you can add a number pad module that attaches to the front of these cases. Each of these cases will feature a soft calfskin leather handle and piping, and the inside is super soft, like softer than, inside of a Tauntaun. There are 100 cases per variant, so if you want more bling, he also has some hand-embroidered patches with metal thread. It's a pretty A+ bag, but has a price to match. But it looks pretty nice. I might grab one. We'll see. Last but not least on the news is the release of the heavy shell Barracks RGB over on Kono.store that I covered at the beginning. This 10 kilos mechanical keyboard comes with either Hako Clear, Hako Violet, or Box White switches in either a black or red case. This 3.9 pound keyboard will come to you at $160, which is pretty decent for a full metal high profile case TKL. The keycaps are die subbed cherry PBT keycaps, so I guess the RGB lighting illuminates around the keycaps as it shines up. I know Kono is working with Heavy Shell on boards, and Heavy Shell kind of does their own design thing, but it's a shame Kono couldn't get the USB-C as the future message across the Heavy Shell, which designed this PCB with a USB mini port. Ugh. So I pecked on the prototype when I was at Kono's office back when I interviewed Nathan Kim, and it did have a very solid typing feel. So if you're interested in a concise typing feel without flex, this could be the board for you. I understand manufacturing wise why there isn't a kit version, but I do think it'd be really cool if they could release a kit version in the future for people who want to build this board up with other switches as well as lubricate their own stabilizers without needing to desolder the whole entire keyboard. Yeah, but it's $160, so. Well, that's it for this week in keyboards. Sorry for the delayed episode and the super long episode. Holy moly, there's just so much to cover this week. But hey, that's awesome. That means our community is constantly working on projects. So thank you everyone for watching. If you like this show, please consider liking and subscribing with that button somewhere. Special thanks to all my sponsors who made this possible as well. I'd also like to thank all my patrons for the month. Thank you, Coda, Taro Paste, Geo, Jeff, Olivia, Nebulant, Shin, and Star. If you would also like to support me through Patreon, the link is down below. See you guys in the next video. Don't forget the cool board every Wednesday.